At the end of the day, I think nobody can agree what Classic Plus is. Most people just hope it would be as good as Turtle WoW and Blizzard won't mess it up, which is literally an impossibility for them because Blizzard is notorious for messing up everything. So yeah, like, who would have believed that people are a little bit skeptical at the moment?
Oh, here's another video about Classic Plus, a game we collectively
Nice.
assume is coming, yet one which looks quite a lot different in our individual minds.
It is coming because Blizzard likes money more than anything in the world.
One person might
It is
expect
coming.
a retail-esque experience, another just a continuation of classic WoW, without increasing the level cap and just new raids and dungeons. Others, such as myself, aren't expecting much at all, but ultimately want to see a new vision for the IP. In my first video discussing Classic Plus, I lamented about how I didn't think it was possible to create a version of World of Warcraft that was long-term anymore. It simply isn't the way the general demographic Blizzard caters to consumes theme park MMOs.
That's the problem. It's the people who Blizzard caters to. If you cater to the right audience, you're going to achieve longevity. It's not that difficult concept to grasp. It's just Blizzard are like a bunch of, oh my god, I can't even say it because we're 1 minute into the video, so I don't want like the YouTube to hate me. So I'm just gonna say Blizzard are incapable of making anything good and have a coherent understanding of who their true fans are. And that's why you get all of the Disney crap just being plastered over and over anything. I just hate that. I really do hate that. If we go back to the grittiness, if we go back to the good old days, I promise you, WoW will pop the hell off. And you can see it clearly with Mist of Pandaria trailer hype levels and Warlords of Draenor trailer hype levels. Yeah, like, you can see who truly play and enjoy World of Warcraft.
It isn't how retail WoW is designed, and if Season of Discovery is any indication, then the philosophies of retail WoW are going to be the driving force behind this Classic Plus version. After all, that's all Blizzard wants to create. Short form, flitting, seasonal, and more positively, fun in the moment-to-moment sense.
True.
Sure, it's
and they fumbled on every single aspect. None of it came to fruition. The game is hemorrhaging players. If you're going to tell me 9 million players are playing this game, I'm gonna smack you. 9 million clankers that play your game don't count. If you remove all the bots and the multi-boxers, the game is like with still millions, I have to admit. It's the king of MMO still. I hate to say it, it's true, I know. But it's definitely less inflated number. Like, we need to see the true count of WoW players. And you can see it if you actually play the game. But nobody plays the game. Everyone likes to say, oh, 9 million players are playing. No. Just play the game. It's empty. It's dead. I played on Draenor. I played on the most populated server. I saw nobody. Like, every single city is empty and it's not phasing. It's because it's literally empty, the world is empty, nothing is filled, and you wait 30 minutes for a Mythic Plus, even as a tank, which is crazy. And if you're pushing high keys, you're gonna wait for 2 hours. And you're gonna disband after the first wipe too, so like, it didn't even matter. But yeah, absolutely. GeneralApple, you're my new Asmin Bold. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I really hope I won't have rats in my ceiling. Well, I mean, I already have them, and the roaches are kind of part of my daily lives, and they always have. So, I guess in a way, I'm shaping up to be. But I'm trying to be me. I'm trying to be trying to do my best, obviously. YouTube won't hate you. You're getting popular lately. I don't know about popular, but yeah, we're making some great new numbers. Really, all thanks to you guys. All thanks to you.
It's mostly just combat, and
I'm a
sure,
nobody.
it's just an aggregate of samey avenues
I'm just a WoW
to eventually
enthusiast.
start raid logging, but at least there's that world we all love, acting as the inextricable backbone to all that is World of Warcraft. The issues I outlined stem from the very real concern I have over just ending up exactly in the same position that birthed Classic in the first place, a version of the game that isn't conceptually reminiscent of WoW as it once was, and one that likely inhabits the ethos of retail more so than anything else. Certainly it won't be anything like RuneScape, one of the few long-term MMOs on the market today, because it obviously can't be. WoW is a theme park, while RuneScape is kind of a sandbox. Naturally, the only other sources of inspiration are equally modern takes on the theme park MMO, whether it be the retail version of WoW.
WoW cannot be a theme park because nobody likes gnomes. It cannot be a theme park. It was always about like living the world itself. I don't really get that. I don't think it's a theme park. You think it's a theme park? I know Blizzard currently is trying to make it into one. I don't think it worked. I think people just love the fact that the world was the leading character and Azeroth was really, like, good. I don't really know. Yes, I mean, nowadays, maybe. They're trying to make it so. Yeah, retail is. Exactly. Classic wasn't. In my opinion, Classic wasn't. It was way more sandboxy. Yeah, retail. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're all in agreement here.
WoW or other competitors like Final Fantasy XIV. Every game that is as distant from Classic WoW as Classic WoW is from Retail WoW. So, what is it that we can even expect when the people currently slaving away on what might be either a month or hopefully years worth of fun are consumed by the audience capture of an audience not super amicable to a version of the game that Classic Plus is inherently based on? After all, even the contemporary audience for Classic is hardly appreciative of what were at one point the defining features of Classic. Level boosts? Sure, why not? WoW tokens? Yeah, guess so. No world buffs? Who cares? Bad audio? Okay, I actually do care about that one. That's why the sponsor of this video is Raycon, a company dedicated to bringing you the best open-air earbuds
I never skip an ad. I respect the hustle. I respect the hustle.
I've been using them more than I ever thought I would, while vacuuming, working out, or just going on a walk. The ability to do pretty much anything with them is liberating. I never have the feeling like
even Classic WoW was more theme park than sandbox. There are very limited ways you can get XP levels and stuff
that hold them in place regardless of what you're doing.
It's definitely less than retail, but I agree to a certain extent. Yeah, I think you're right.
3 million customers.
I think you guys are right.
High quality sound.
It really just depends.
Is exactly
some level of theme park are very much necessary in my opinion. So yeah, I agree.
For others,
I don't like full sandbox MMOs. You know what I'm saying?
Better yet,
I feel like full sandbox MMOs are always ending up bad, like Dune Awakening.
Why not upgrade your dad's everyday
I don't think it's that
by
good.
using my promo code? Go to buyraycon.com/theorywiseopen.
Yes, nice cat, by the way.
15%
very
off your
cute cat.
Thanks to Raycon.
What the fuck? What is that noise? Who donated? Oh, Sarah Merconium with the 5 gifted subs. My God. Hello, how do you do? Thank you so much, my man. Why are you resting your money on an idiot such as myself? But thank you so much, man. Grats on everyone who got that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Holy, man, I forgot how that noise was like. That's crazy. Damn, guys, you're popping off. Thank you so much. You really don't need to waste your money on me, though. Just enjoy the streams. It's completely fine, honestly. But thank you so much, Sturmiconium. Thank you so much, man.
And back to the video. Some players are keen on stripping away features of Classic and adding poisonous ones in their place prior to even the launch day of Classic Plus rolling out. And if they aren't keen, they are at least accepting. That's the benefit of having a player base that is just desperate for anything new. If you're hungry enough, even boiled leather can have some appeal. Something I took note of when this conversation truly started was that the WoW community as a whole doesn't really have a collective agreed upon understanding of what Classic Plus should be, and that puts Blizzard in the unfortunate position to have to improvise using tools that, once again, are contemporary. You shouldn't be surprised if modern features of WoW make their way into Classic Plus, packaged as entirely new, novel things. Transmog, hell, even housing, all avenues for extensive monetization and collectathon gameplay that retail WoW now inhabits with very, very little pushback from its core audience.
Yeah, because the core audience is just a bunch of whales. Blizzard conditioned them for that moment. Blizzard groomed them to the point where they'll accept anything as a new piece of content. I still cannot believe they added real-life currency to a housing feature that was long time in the making, literally over 2 decades ago. They planned to make housing inside of vanilla World of Warcraft. Now, they didn't have the time or the money to do so, so it ended up like being pushed to the point where it didn't exist anymore, and now they brought it finally into fruition in the latest Midnight expansion, and they charge you real-life money for it. That's crazy. And not only that, the fact that you have to purchase multiple copies of the same furniture rather than just to buy it once and put it infinite times, it's crazy. So for example, if you buy like a couch, if you buy one couch, you can only place one couch. You can place it infinite times. It's not an unlockable. It's like literally limited. It's the most insane, outlandish crap I've ever heard about in my life. That is crazy way to monetize your housing system, and I'm not even going to touch about the $75 treehouse. We're not even gonna touch on that. I made a whole video about this.
$75 treehouse? Sure, it's only a cosmetic.
Oh, there he said it.
Blizzard can price
He said it
in as abhorrent
immediately
a way as
after.
they want.
Immediately.
$90 mount? I guess it does give convenience no other mount does.
Yes, and the WoW idiots would actually. Oh my god, man! I'm pausing every second. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just. Oh, I'm getting rage baited. I'm raging right now. God. Oh my god. It's so infuriating. People would literally justify this mount in the WoW community behind the Longboy meme. Oh, it's not a mount. It's a Longboy. Oh, I want to say something that would get me. Oh, no, never mind.
At least you can buy it with a WoW token, right? I don't want to spend yet another video lamenting on the state of affairs. To those that have watched my prior content, or if you want to just assume
I have not
my
pre-watched
general
this.
lack of expectations and beleaguered disposition, I obviously don't want any of these features, nor do I think they are necessary to turn a major profit, nor do I think there is any chance they won't exist in a version of WoW that requires a real, actual development team creating real new content. I think whatever version of Classic Plus arrives within the next year or two is one that is meticulously curated by Blizzard's modern day monetization philosophies.
Yes.
Bear with me here because we're about to get kind of crazy, but I promise this will tie into Classic Plus. What I mean by modern day monetization philosophies is that
WoW token day one and a pre-order mount. 100%, I'm already telling you, like, be ready for this. People are literally telling me, like, oh, they're gonna have WoW token in it? You think they're gonna have, like, skins in it? Yeah, they will. Day one, they will. 100%.
this
If you think otherwise, you're deluding yourself.
Blizzard invented to keeping people within their sphere of content. This half conspiratorial model of monetization that I assume Blizzard is employing is, frankly, genius. Probably the last genius thing Blizzard has done in the past decade. It's a model adapted from modern day streaming services, how Netflix's goal isn't to have you subscribe for a specific show or film, but rather endlessly scroll their portfolio. Let me try to explain. Retail WoW operates in 3 to 4 month increments. Patches happen.
Damn, that's crazy. They have my biography there? I thought it wouldn't supposed to come for like at least a year now. Damn, that's crazy.
To explain. Retail WoW operates in 3 to 4 month
I'm about to be famous.
Patches happen every 66 to 99 days, but by and large, 3 to 4 months is a smooth on and off board for any player that isn't committed to playing the entire time, which most players, of course, aren't. To be clear, the game really isn't designed for perpetual engagement anymore. Retail WoW, at the behest of the audience begging to have their time respected via removing tangible grinds from their favorite MMO, is an incredibly short-form game. You can chew through the vast majority of a new season's content within the span of 2 weeks, and unless you're interested in repeating the same content over and over again, but at a slightly higher difficulty, chasing the same exact items you already have, yet scaled up by increments of a couple percent, that's kind of it. And to be fair, that's fine. That's just the modern version of the game, and it should exist as it does. You know, it is what it is. But bugs aside, this repetitive cyclical format has allowed Blizzard to create a shallow, quick turnaround season that delivers an expected samey rhythm of content to all those players who love retail
It
WoWs,
turned the game to Diablo.
exceptionally fluid gameplay, and wonderful dungeon and raid design. Two features that have remained amazing for years. Retail WoW to this day has the best combat of any MMO, at least to me. But you won't play a new patch for much longer than a Diablo season. If it wasn't for the endless time gating
Oh
of
my
player
god, I swear I haven't pre-watched this. I swear I haven't pre-watched this. On the life of me, I haven't pre-watched this. That's crazy, saying everything I said like 1 second after I say it. But it just goes to show, great minds think alike.
For progression,
He's
it
based.
might
I
be
know
even
that.
shorter. There aren't
He
any
knows.
unique chase items, demanding grinds, everything is flat. To people like me who love grindy long-term MMOs, I hated this. It felt low effort, boring, trite, and eventually made me quit. Now I dabble a couple times a year for a couple weeks. But it was genius from a profit standpoint. After the reception to BFA and especially during the whole Shadowlands ordeal, the idea of respecting time by diminishing long-term grinds was at the forefront of player-driven discourse. This, in major part, stemmed from the comparisons drawn to Final Fantasy XIV. Needing to prove their receptiveness and agility, Blizzard had to respond by providing players with less of that. more optional content delivered as catch-up systems or cosmetic collectathons. But Blizzard is still a company, retention is still key. They don't want players to only engage for 2 months of every year, so they had to ramp up patch cadence at the detriment of QA, and even more importantly, condense the expansion cycles from 2 years to around 18 months. All of this was done to facilitate a new monetization philosophy that allows them to deliver shallow, short-form content that gives off the air of not demanding time while still keeping players within their content sphere. There's this flow state a company can arrive at when their profit incentives fit perfectly with their player base's expectations or lack thereof. I call it corpo consumerism, when a player base begs to have their time respected and the company can appeal to them by making shallow, simple, and readily short-form content that requires far less time to develop. It's a win-win. Spend less time creating content, yet charge the same price for that content and be praised for it.
I mean, I'd argue the complete opposite. I think that if you artificially, how do you say, elongate, like lengthen, like how do you say that? Like you make stuff longer, okay? If you artificially longifying your game, okay, it's really, really bad. It's really bad, and it does the exact opposite of actually making the game good and respect the player time, because now you're just making them stick to the game and they have to grind infinitely. Back in the classic day, what I love the most is the fact that you just level your character. You went to the raiding zone and you were like raid logging once or twice a week and that's it. And if you wanted to play the game more, like make an ult. That was awesome. They actually gave us time to experience the game fresh with a new scope, with like a new player, with a new class, right? And that was really, really good. That was fine. They already cracked the code. They had the formula. Right now, it feels like you're too heavily committed into one character, and it's so bad. You're infinitely rolling for gear, you have all the bonus rolls, all that stuff, and it's like garbage. Even now with the guarantee system, it's so dull and boring. It just artificially make the game longer, and I do not like that.
All on the expedited schedule.
You pre-watched it? No,
for the next full-priced expansion.
Stop.
That alone is a controversial statement, though. There isn't an insubstantial number of retail players who praise Blizzard for their incredibly quick content cadence, arguably delivering more content than ever before. But I don't see it that way when the vast majority of content delivered is as deep as a puddle or a complete reskin of a previously existing piece of content. Much like Helltides used to.
Man, you know how retail players hated me for saying that? Do you have any idea the amount of hate I got for saying this and using that exact example? Yeah, man, people just clowned on me in the comments. It was crazy, but good thing is, I don't really count retail player opinion as an opinion, so it's fine. Like, don't get me wrong, if you enjoy retail World of Warcraft, awesome. Like, I'm truly happy for you. You do you. But just, stay away from me. Let's see, there are two types of players that enjoy retail. Ultra casuals who care about the story, they don't exist anymore. And players that are the peak of the game. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, though. Blizzard only caters to the 1%ers on each side of the scale. So what you need to do is always care about the 70 to 80% of players in the middle, and you'll always have a solid game.
Work in Diablo 4 Seasons, what color of Legion Invasion will retail WoW get this patch? Who knows? I guess it depends on the color of the patch logo. Alongside this, there's a distinct presence of heavy power progression time gating, which, much like the corpo consumerist element described before, has the simultaneous benefit of players feeling like their time is respected because they never quote-unquote fall behind as a result of player power being doled out in weekly increments. And that benefits Blizzard since they can keep developing fast turnaround, facile systems that get artificially drawn out by said time gating, which also keeps players subscribed for longer. It's a win-win. That's not to mention the myriad bugs that have only gotten more problematic in time. It's all to facilitate a 3 to 4 month cycle where players engage for a month. Then
imagine having a command prompt bug popping up in the middle of a raid boss. You know that during PTR, and you still shipped it to the live game. Imagine. Blizzard would have never done that, though. It didn't happen. Like, trust me, guys. Don't Google it.
and by and large drop off, and that's not a problem for Blizzard, whereas for a company only creating a single live service game, it might be an issue when the population dramatically declines almost immediately after a patch or expansion release. For Blizzard, it's by design. They get the clout of respecting time while simultaneously just funneling players into another version of the same game. It's no surprise that the subscription numbers now match those of Legion when we're combining like 3 or 4 or even 5
Failed
versions
expansion.
of WoW running simultaneously, aligning their release schedules to account for each other's downtime.
Yeah.
The last graph published by Blizzard,
And it's all done in a way to obfuscate real information and to deceive shareholders, mind you. Like, oh, you see, the new expansion is doing good, like, all the numbers. There's a reason why Blizzard intentionally combined all of their numbers together. It's to inflate it. Everyone knows. You don't know where the true number count comes from. For all we know, 9 million players can come from Classic. But we don't know that. And again, it's intentional. It's intentional. It's by design. It's on purpose. That's the thing. Yeah, Warren's me today, right? Yeah. After I'm done ranting about Blizzard, which would probably take like 3 more hours with the raid that I'm pausing. Only reason I played retail was for the story. After that, I got drained after 10 days. I'm surprised you even survived 10 days with that story. I tried to get into Midnight Story. I really have. I just, no. I couldn't. I couldn't take it any longer.
years ago kind of showed this off, numbers rivaling prior peaks, but only due to having multiple versions keeping retention simultaneously. The most frustrating part of this is what is derived from it. People assume that retention for any one game has improved, but in reality, it just kind of improved for the company. Individual games suffer all the same. When a portion of the retail demographic falls off after they chew through the short-form seasonal content, Blizzard doesn't want them to go play other games. No, that's bait. They want them to go play World of Warcraft, Classic, Anniversary, Remix, Season of Discovery, Plus. Whatever suffix we want to attach is irrelevant. The cadence is what's important. That cadence, those aligned release schedules paced perfectly to fit the downtime of the other, is the multi-headed hydra of Blizzard's contemporary monetization philosophy. Now, you can access multiple versions of the same game with individual cash shops with different level boosts and entirely different reasons to remain subscribed, all the while not requiring any one person to invest more than a couple weeks at any given time. Why do you think selling level boosts benefit them? It's not just because they want people to hit the new content faster, it's because they need people to hit the new content faster. You don't want people to spend months leveling up like they did in Classic WoW when the new retail patch is right around the corner, with its own delicious cash shop full of $90 mounts and $80 tree.
Yeah. This guy's pretty clueless. I don't think he's clueless. I think he's making a lot of assumption, but for the most part, I think he's been right. Like, I'm agreeing with him. I'm in agreement. He does see things from a different lens, and I respect that. Like, I always respect a different opinion, but for the most part, I think he's right. I think he's right.
Houses. To be clear, the framing here is a
Yeah, they just released TBC and Midnight at the exact same time. I know, I thought it was bad too, so I was kind of confused about this timeline too. I was kind of confused about that.
Negative because I think it's bad for the genre, but that doesn't mean you have to hate it. And from a marketing standpoint, it's genius. If you just want to play World of Warcraft, regardless of what version there is, this probably doesn't strike you as anything out of the ordinary, and that's fine. After all, one of the biggest problems with theme park MMOs was content bloat facilitating a difficult onboarding process for new players. New players didn't want to slog through 120 levels of boring catch-up content only to then raid log with their friends. For the longest time, this issue of bloat made it challenging to create content designed to cannibalize pre-existing content. Today, it doesn't matter. It'll only last a month anyway. Look at the releases. They are, by intent, non-competitive. You aren't supposed to stick to one version of WoW. The ideal player engages with them all. The missing puzzle piece is Classic Plus. That's the final head of this hydra, and one that will complete Blizzard's most defining success in today's industry, their ability to hyper-monetize a buy-to-play, subscription-based, cash shop having, player boost selling, WoW token peddling MMO, one that is
I do think he's right about that. And I said that on a previous video. I think they're going to do like retail expansion, classic expansion, retail expansion, classic plus expansion, and that's how we're going to roll. I do think that this part is true.
Is monetized harder than some
It makes
free-to-play
sense.
games that I enjoy. But now, multiplied
Yeah, he's
by
cooking.
four individually monetized games tied together by a single subscription. And
Easy.
whereas before it'd be a hard sell to monetize what is effectively a re-release of the same content that launched decades ago, even though they still tried, with Classic Plus, they have every excuse to do just that. If they invested millions upon millions of dollars into development, do we really think the game will just be a subscription price and maybe eventually a level boost or WoW token? No, of course not. This is Blizzard we're talking about. If there aren't 6 or 7 competing methods of monetization running simultaneously, then that's because they had to momentarily disable one.
Look at all the cool stuff you can have. Guys,
that's because
are you kidding me? Just $25 for this very cute, cozy bunny mount? I mean, that's a bargain. Like, dog, like, you should instantly just click that button, click it 4 times, get all the recolors too while you're at it. Wow, what a deal.
Had to momentarily disable one due to a game-breaking bug. But you know, I'm not gonna sit here and complain about whatever version of Classic Plus will eventually release, because to me, the end goal is as clear as day. The rollout will certainly be successful, and Blizzard knows that. It might even inhabit more than the average patch or expansion's worth of content. And despite my concerns, I'm still really excited to play it. But what about post-launch? That cycle must be retained. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how. How will they find a way to continuously shorten any one player's journey in Classic? Level boosts, experience boosts, who knows? World of Warcraft today is not a single game. It's also not a collection of disparate games. It is a spider's web, a collection of titles that are synergetic with one another, a part of a greater retention network. They can't exist separately, not like, for example, RuneScape 3 and old school RuneScape. They are dependent on each other's downtime.
This is such a great raid.
Heavily influenced by one another. That influence is a precariously built card house, right beside a window. Any one momentous breeze could knock it all over. Bluntly put, it's self-cannibalizing. When you're creating substantively different products, having them influence each other could, maybe, create homogeneity between them. The standards of retail start to influence Classic. It's not like the half-broken patches that are now standard in retail are juxtaposed by polished patches in Classic. Far from it. Both versions suffer from unstable releases. And that will only become more prominent when they need to actually develop out 2 versions simultaneously. They can't just re-release the same content for a 4th time. They must create new content which brings with it a greater demand of high-level testing, especially if Classic Plus features entirely new systems and mechanics, not just ports of existing ones. The fear I have is that there is a demographic of players who implicitly defend this. I mean, just look at how many rallied against—
Ignored him. Just ignored him and laugh. That's what I do. That's what I do. They're so small and insignificant, you don't really need to pay attention to them or take anything they say seriously. I know. I've been fighting with them in the comments for quite some time now. I mean, they have been coming to my comments. I've just been ignoring and laughing, but still, like, you should never take them seriously. They're just a loud minority, and you need to cater to people like us. That's all that you need to do to have successful World of Warcraft again.
Mike Ybarra after he made that admittedly cringe tweet about—
yeah, we went over that.
How many players pointed out that he fired—
Bro actually thought it was him. Like, Mike Ybarra, this guy probably destroyed World of Warcraft more than anyone else, and he actually had the gall to say that World of Warcraft needed to go back to its roots. And whenever someone on Twitter asked him, like, why didn't you do that? He told them, you're clueless. Great response. Truly fantastic.
So many QA—
I guess he was too busy cube crawling, I don't know.
Why the most recent retail patch was a buggy disaster. Looking at that, I couldn't help but think, how is it relevant? It's been almost half a decade since he's worked at Blizzard. They've had all the time in the world to hire and onboard new QA, yet they haven't. At least not from what the players have seen.
QA in Blizzard.
That's not to defend his decisions,
Imagine.
but to contextualize how dismissive of current problems a player base with low expectations can be. Okay, now that we went on that conspiratorial monetization-driven ramble, it's worth considering or at least acknowledging the expectations for Classic itself. I've always advocated for more creativity in the player base when asking for Classic Plus content, because new raids and dungeons simply don't cut it if every patch is just
I
raid
mean,
log content.
I'm not gonna lie, that guys, to any of you non-WoW players, does this look fun to you? I'm just like I'm really just contemplating here. Like, what do you see at the screen at the moment? I actually want to test you guys. I actually want to see what you guys think. Don't If you're a WoW player, don't answer that. If you're a non-WoW player, tell me what do you think about this right now. I'm actually quite curious. Like, do you think that this is fun? This is a fun raid experience? Like, do you think this is good? I mean, what do you think about that? That's kind of interesting. Nope. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Yeah, typical Holy Trinity tab targeting to me. It's not about even Holy Trinity. It's just the fact that you have this tiny, tiny window here to look through and actually do the raid. And all the rest is just random noise. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Especially after starting raiding in different MMOs. I see more and more how bad World of Warcraft raiding situation is. They really need to start to chill with the effects and completely tone down bosses, just make them fun, and make all of this unnecessary. You don't need to push a button every second to have fun. Fun should come from raid and raid mechanics rather than your character being able to mash buttons. But Blizzard would never understand that. It is so stupid. This is the cleanest HUD on retail. True, you know what? The fact that this is true is the saddest thing of all. You're actually right about that. Oh my god, who opened Excel in my game? Don't worry. This is modest. Yeah, it's insane. As a WoW player, if you can see half of your screen, you're doing it right.
Because new raids and dungeons simply don't cut it. If every patch is just raid logging with some shallow secondary content, then they've effectively recreated retail, yet advertised it to a slant of the same demographic. It's meaningless. The distillation of what Classic WoW is as a leveling experience especially must be recognized by the player base. The reason that Classic WoW and the original Incarnation 2 stuck with players is because it simplified and distilled the best elements of, say, EverQuest's leveling and sold it to a broader demographic. It was a more immersive, better paced, and designed leveling experience. Today, that still applies. For as arguably dated as Classic is visually, it's still the most immersive leveling experience in any MMO, at least to me. And that held true with just how many people actually did it back in 2019 with its re-release. I think I've mentioned this before, but considering the leveling experience for a casual player takes more than a month to complete, it's pretty insane to see just how many people not only completed it, but also grinded out raids in Classic. Almost 500,000 people were logging raids weekly. That's not even counting those who just did dungeons and overworld content at max level. We can point to other expansions getting close to those numbers, but again, those expansions required a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the amount of time to get to logging raids by comparison to Classic. And that's not even considering boosts. So Classic's ability to keep players playing, grinding the long leveling process is very clearly such a crucial ingredient to the formula. Blizzard's bracketed leveling experience in Season of Discovery was conceptually interesting, but in practice paled in comparison to Classic's retention. The connection developed through long-term gameplay is what kept Classic relevant for the length it was, and what made people fall in love with the world all over again, by actually inhabiting it. Not through dailies or weeklies, but through actual agency-driven engagement, leveling, farming resources, getting world buffs, traveling to dungeons, and more. The reality, though, is this only happens once. There's only one release of Classic that has the entire world to explore. That's why Blizzard loves re-releasing it. Everything after is a minor expansion to the endgame, and even if it weren't, even if there were some random new leveling zones here and there, it won't ever recreate the magnitude of the original world. The issue, conceptually, with Classic Plus is that the best part of Classic is one that can't ever be recreated by any individual patch or expansion. That's what made Classic so wonderful.
It can. You just need to go back and fix it. It just Blizzard are too lazy to do so. Of course you can. If you try to fix the leveling with Chromie time, you're doing it wrong. You just need to go back and rehaul the entire game. And again, it's too much of an investment. It's not an impossibility, it's just laziness.
One new zone doesn't manifest the level of explorative desire, neither do 5 new zones. New raids and dungeons are neat, but they aren't sustainable in the long term as a version of Classic. They are cherries on top of an already beloved game. Another way to put it would be, does anyone think that if we were to remove the leveling from Classic and just have players start at max level and get funneled into the raids and dungeons, that it
No.
would hold any relevance in public discourse?
No, it will turn into Fellowship, a game that literally died copying World of Warcraft Mythic Plus and rating system, and nobody's playing it. And I can even check it right now. I think like even less than 100 people are currently playing that game.
I highly doubt it. While the raids and dungeons themselves have their own qualities, they only do so when contextualized by the rest of the game and its game world. Again, the world itself is the most important distinguishing factor that separates classics from retail. And I don't just mean the nostalgia of the original world. In fact, that to me is almost irrelevant past the early levels.
It is irrelevant because I wasn't nostalgia bound when I played World of Warcraft Vanilla for the first time. Obviously, I came into World of Warcraft during Draenor. I've mentioned that multiple times. I had nothing to do with the games. I had no ties whatsoever. I played Classic the first time they re-released it, and my god, I fell in love with World of Warcraft. Suddenly, every single thing clicked. I remember when I came in during Draenor, and I played the game for like a couple of days, and I went like, damn, is that the MMO everyone were talking about? Like, this is the World of Warcraft? Because the name was still echoing throughout every door and, like, through every room, like, humanity can ever conjure, right? It was crazy. So I went into this, standing in a garrison, doing table missions. Is this it? Is this the WoW? And then I played Classic World of Warcraft. Everything clicked. Everything. It was like it wasn't even the final piece of the puzzle. It was the whole puzzle. So now I know what makes a good MMO, and the fact that he mentioned the world being the lead character is the truest statement ever to exist. Because nowadays, you're the main character, you're the champion of Azeroth, you help pushing turtles into the water. But no, back in the day, the world did that. And the world, whenever the world is the leading character, you're bound to have a good MMO. Once you are the lead character and you make the world capitulate to your demand, you already won. There is no scarcity, there is no adversity, there's nothing for you to conquer. You're already reached the culmination of your efforts from level 1, and there's no point of playing. You don't get to build your character, you don't get to build your story, you don't get to find your way inside of the game. It's just nothing. It's all a bunch of nothing.
If Blizzard were to somehow create an entirely new continent that sits alongside the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, one that perfectly encapsulates their pace and leveling experience, their magnitude, it would arguably make the game even better. Anyway, the release of Classic Plus will be huge, because, like always, you have that entire world to re-engage with. What's worth considering is what it looks like 2 years later, 4 years later. The only time I personally see people discussing this is in conversations where they support Blizzard investing in some kind of alt-driven incentives, make having alts more meaningful. And to that I say, that's just retail. Not that it'd be bad, but it'd just be retail, right? That's exactly how Blizzard facilitates retail's replayability. Out of content, make an alt. Classic also had this option, but due to the longer-term nature of the game, it's not one most players even explored. Alongside the obvious impending monetization push, is this experiment doomed to just recreate retail again? I'm no game designer, so I can't say. I think players want progression of power, levels, and general character growth by adding a deluge of cosmetics that already undercuts all the visual progression of the game. By incrementally doling out an expected swath of content on 4-month cycles, you end up resembling retail more so than not. It's just retail with slower leveling and more class fantasy. I am unsure if that is sufficient enough reason for perpetual player investment. There's a chance that by creating such an environment, it disconnects people so much from Classic or whatever older version of WoW they love. It might disconnect them so much that they'll just respond more positively to yet another re-release of Classic and the first 2 expansions. How embarrassing would
Damn.
that be? To invest millions of dollars into a version of the game.
Man, it's almost like Season of Discovery, fake Classic Plus hype died off relatively quick. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That fails to connect with the player base it's made for, only to have those players default back to a re-release of an older version. It'd be like if Jagex had to release another version of 2007 RuneScape after a cataclysmically miscalculated change to the current version of old school RuneScape, a version already made to be conceptually reminiscent of 2007 RuneScape. It's the kind of company L that is difficult to recover from, but this is Blizzard we're talking about. I'm sure they'll be fine. Frankly, while there is a not insubstantial chance that Classic Plus won't be for me, that's fine too. I'm more than aware that I no longer inhabit the majority demographic for World of Warcraft, and what my expectations and wishes for WoW are not even remotely similar to those of the average player or even the average Blizzard director. There is no alignment there, and that could be why I'm so confused by the general conversation surrounding Classic Plus. I'm confused as to why so many players are seemingly asking for the same exact things that led them to want a classic version of the game in the first place, and Blizzard is more than happy to deliver that. If the player base only asks for new dungeons, raids, and maybe a class and profession, then that would be amazing for Blizzard. Extremely low expectations for a multi-billion-dollar company, always being asked for systems that they've perfected.
The perfect combination.
We're back in that corpo-consumerist space I mentioned earlier in the video. It's like asking Apple to make sure the new iPhone has the ability to text other people. I'm sure if that was the predominant expectation and demand, Apple would be ecstatic. They would rejoice.
But that's not the case. I think it's just Blizzard intentionally misconstruing what the audience asked for. And that's why you end up with like half-baked systems, like Torghast and Delves. Like, people asked for this. People want roguelike experience, right? But Blizzard essentially gave it to us, but it's half-baked. And don't get me wrong, I love Delves, but they should have been way, way better than what they are now. They should have implemented like a whole new section devoted for power progression, all inside of Delves and all of that stuff, and they should have made it extensive. Like, literally to the point that I would assign developers to strictly work on Delves. I would have done that if I was at Blizzard. But no, I guess they're too busy refrigerating.
As Blizzard has with retail becoming a collectathon, and as they have with the classic player base's most common demand of just more re-releases. Whatever the future of Classic Plus is, I genuinely hope to see some kind of acknowledgement and maybe even pushback against designing it around the content schedule of far less long-term MMOs. If Classic Plus needs to fit the cadence of retail, then it inherently can't have the features that made Classic so great. But if it doesn't fit the cadence of retail, then it fails to become another head on the hydra of Blizzard's most genius system. At one point, MMOs were built on downtime. Long grinds created paths for friendship bonds and greater agency across the overworld because everyone wasn't expected to do everything. But don't just take my word for it.
We also have to give players something to aspire to. There's a lot to be said for that moment when you're sitting in Orgrimmar as a newbie and somebody runs through and like all
they knew.
And you're like, wow, that guy must be so powerful. Or eBay or something.
Damn.
So
we had it so good and we didn't know that. Oh god, humanity peaked at the late 90s, early 2000s. And that's it. After that, everything went off.
So, anyway, the world feels a lot bigger for everyone if there's unbeaten content out there. Even if you're the guy who's like level 30 doing a Wrathy Highlands quest, but you know that the resident Uber guild of your servers, you know, trying to kill Nefarian, it creates an epic feel for the whole world.
Social dependency was a core feature of older MMOs.
Look at that.
One that was carried forth by Classic WoW's most controversial features. From group quests to long spawn times to the wildly debated world buffs and how there were entire ecosystems developed around organizing their use. Communities only form from demand.
That's crazy. I wish I wasn't a kid at that time. It's so unfortunate I never got to experience that. Like pulling an all-nighter in front of a GameStop to get a copy of World of Warcraft, dude, that sounds like one hell of an experience. I would have definitely liked to, like, you know, have that. So annoying that I was too busy eating crayons or something. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, you can hear he played it himself. I know. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, I like the chaos that it is now. At least we can laugh about the chaos, right? It is funny, but I don't want World of Warcraft to be comedy. I just want it to be good again.
Created by social systems. By reducing friction, by reducing demand, communities may never be created in the first place. That's part of why a grand multi-server amoeba, as opposed to strict insular servers, kind of killed all server-specific identities. Is Classic Plus designed to last? What is its
The
identity?
Dark Souls
How
Firelink
can you
Shrine
inhabit
music
a
is
game
peak, by the way.
defined by its landmass without
Perfect
creating
choice.
another mass of equal magnitude and influence? There is no direct answer, and the lack of communication certainly doesn't make it an easier thing to determine. But we can, I think, at least agree that a version of Classic that resembles retail is one that certainly won't have the lasting impact that originally made World of Warcraft the IP it is today. Better yet, what does it even mean to inhabit retail? That alone is a question that demands analysis. What is the most different element between these two versions, and is it one that has been encroached upon by releases like Season of Discovery, perfectly inhabiting the schedule and expectations of retail, but just retrofitted into Classic? It's all hopes and dreams at this point, concerns and speculations. I only hope that my concerns are proven to all be for naught, and in however many months or years, a not insubstantial number of you can come back to this video and laugh at just how silly and stupid I was to ever be worried about Classic Plus. Until then, back to speculating, I guess.
Bam. The copium takes. Oh, this was such a great video. Such a great video. First video I watched from this guy. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. You guys should watch this video for yourself and give him a like. It was truly an amazing video. Now, I turned it into a 40-something minutes of yap session. I did kind of get triggered there because he was right about plenty of the stuff he was speaking about. And I really just wish Blizzard won't screw up Classic Plus. And I know they will. Deep down in my heart, I know the truth. I know what will happen. But, man, I just love the sweet lies that Blizzard whispers in my ear sometimes. But that being said, I'm a man of reality and realness. I know it's going to suck. I think the most likely scenario is that we're all gonna play Classic Plus on release. We're going to enjoy this for a couple of months because they're going to take all Turtle WoW assets anyway. I mean, it's their assets, right? I mean Turtle WoW code and the way they arranged everything. And after that, when it's time for new fresh content, Blizzard would fail to deliver on that and meet player expectation. And over time, we'll just quit. I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. But until that part, at least we're going to have a couple of months where we enjoy Classic again.